Hello, good day, and welcome everyone. I'm Debbie Cleek, and I'm here with Embrilliance Software, teaming up with embroiderydesigns.com to bring you a special presentation on StitchArtist levels 1, 2, and 3. We're going to cover all kinds of great features, starting with draw with points, fill stitches, underlay, and yes, even when we get to level 3, making a patch in level 3 software. So be sure and stick around for that. Not to mention, I will be sticking around a little bit later as well to answer any questions you may have. So, like I said, be sure and stick around. Of course, we're also going to have some great promotions, 10% off of all Embrilliance software, 50% off, no, I'm sorry, 50 free designs, 10 free Embrilliance or BX fonts, and free shipping on all stabilizers and adhesives. So I don't know about you, but that's one I'm looking forward to taking advantage of. So without further ado, let's get started because we've got a lot to cover. Okay, here we are with Embroidery Works with the platform up. This is the toolbar. This is the tool pane, and you'll notice the Create button is in the toolbar. We're going to click on that, and that's going to change the tool pane into the StitchArtist tool pane. Here we have StitchArtist level 1 and all the tools that come with level 1. You have your image section, you have your draw section, and you have your stitch section. Okay? So now let's get started with our digitizing. In level 1, you can bring in JPEGs, bitmaps, TIFFs, GIFs. I think that's it. But you can just bring in images, no artwork, no SVGs or AIs or artwork files, only image files. So I'm going to click on the image button. I'm going to bring in this heart with paw, click open. That'll put that on my design page. Let's zoom in on that just a bit. There we go. Now we can see really nicely. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to draw the heart background for this. So I'm going to click on my Draw with Points tool. And I'm going to start here. I'm going to click here. I'm going to try to get as few nodes as possible. When I get to the end here, I'm going to right click at the end. Let's bring this back up to the center of the design page. Okay, so we've got a couple of areas here we need to talk about. First one being this one down here. There are a couple of things I can do. I can edit the Bezier handle the way it is, and that would work just fine. Or I can right mouse click on that. It'll give me a number of options. Let's select that node. Right mouse click on it and select cusp. What that is going to do is allow me to edit these Bezier handles independently, allowing one to be on one side and one to be going two entirely different directions. Let's go up to the top here. I think you can see it better up here. I'm going to select this node. I'm going to right click on it. I'm going to select cusp. Yes, there are a number of other options in there. Your copy, paste, symmetric is both what it is now. It's both of your nodes will edit the same. That's curve. Symmetric, both of your nodes will edit the same. and I could bring these all the way in. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click and I'm going to select cusp. I don't want a line. That way I can bring this up here and edit that curve, and I can bring this one over here and edit that curve. And then I can apply a satin border to that. Reduce the width just a bit to match the artwork a little bit closer. There we go. That is your drawing with points and applying your satin border. Now I could have made that a running stitch. I could have made it a bean stitch. I could have made it a number of running stitches, which is this icon right here, which we'll talk about those. We're going to outline our toes, with 4 different types of running stitch. We're going to now use our magic wand. You see how our cursor has changed to a magic wand, so I can click in my paw, then click in each one of my toes, and if you notice over here in my object tree, each time I click, it's making a line over here in my object tree. Right click when you're finished and it'll turn your cursor back to the selection arrow. I'm going to select the paw and I'm going to make it an applique. I'm going to make it a satin applique so it matches my satin stitch in my heart. I'm going to adjust the stitch width adjustment. You have the ability to adjust the stitch width in StitchArtist Level 1. So we will adjust the stitch width. There we go. We can also assign it position, applique position, and applique material. If we assign it applique material, we can also assign it fabric preview. We could also, if we want to make this a pre-cut, if we have a digital cutter or something where maybe we printed out a template and cut this piece of fabric ahead of time, we're using a pre-cut. Or if we're using a digital cutter or the AccuQuilt Go and are using a pre-cut shape from there, we don't want to size it, so we would use pre-cut, and then I wouldn't be able to size this. Okay. So we're not using pre-cut. We'll keep the fabric preview and the position and material selected. Now I'm going to come over here and select my line. I'm going to fill it with a fill stitch, and I am going to adjust my inclination, which is my stitch direction, to go straight across the toe of my paw. And I'm going to do that for each one of these. That'll give me just enough stitch variation for a successful sew out, but also enough to allow the light to grab the stitches a little differently and get some movement in my stitches. Something else I'm also going to do is I'm going to change my start and stop points. I'm going to stop this one down here. I'm going to start it up here. I'm going to start this one down here. I'm going to stop it up here. I'm going to start this one up here and start this one down here. And finally, I'm going to start this one at the bottom and stop it at the, whoops, let's undo that. And stop it at the top. And what that does is it makes my jumps the closest point. Start, stop, start, stop, start, stop, start, stop. So my jumps are the closest points to each other. So if I have to trim it by hand, I'll have enough thread to pull it up and trim it. Otherwise, it'd be long enough for my machine to see it as a jump. But it's also a way to save a little bit of thread. Not that you're saving that much, but every little bit helps. Okay, now I'm going to show you how to outline these toes. We are going to select, we got the first one selected already. I am going to right mouse click on it, and I'm going to select copy, and then right click and select paste, because I have to have two objects. If I'm going to do two things to an object, I have to have an object for each thing I'm going to do. So this one I'm going to apply an outline to, so I have to have a second object to apply a second thing to. The stem stitch, so I have a second object. Let's select our second toe, right click, copy, right click, paste. Now you see I have a second object down here. Apply a running stitch. I'm going to give this one a back stitch. I'm going to select the third toe, right click, copy, right click, paste. This one I'm going to give a chain stitch. And finally, this one here, I'm going to give it a running stitch. Whoops, I'm going to undo that. I'm going to select the third one. I'm going to right click, copy, right click, paste. I am going to give this one a running stitch, and I am going to apply the bean stitch to that one. Just a 3-pass bean stitch. Let's zoom in on this area right here. Using our compass rose, let's see. There was a little messed up area here somewhere. Let's zoom back out. Oh, it looks fine now. Must have just, oh, this is what I'm looking for. Yeah, there's a couple of extra nodes in here. Let's delete those. There we go. Fix that. Sometimes you'll get a node when you use a magic wand or an automatic tool that will kind of go astray. If that happens, all you have to do is just delete that node, delete a couple of the nodes, and everything will get back in line and march straight for you. Okay. So this is our simple little design. Let's talk for just a minute about underlay. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on it, but it does deserve some conversation. Whenever you're creating a design, you need to be sure you apply some kind of underlay. The only time you wouldn't is if you are doing a loose leaf, a sketch fill, where your underlay would show under your fill stitch and you do not want it to. Then you're not going to have enough stitches in your design to warrant an underfill because it's a very loosely stitched design. Okay? In StitchArtist Level 1, you have the control over your underlay. You have 4 different types of underlay, and you control the density and the inset, which is how far inside your edge your underlay will go. Okay? Not a whole lot of time spent on underlay, but I wanted to at least talk about it a little bit. So you'd know in level 1, you do have those controls for underlay, which is a pretty important thing. A lot of softwares just give you the underlay as an automatic setting, and you don't get the choice to turn it on or off or select which one you want. If I were stitching this on a cotton denim, I would probably choose diagonal 1 and 2 and contour. I wouldn't do the perpendicular. That's just my choice. If it's not, because 100% cotton denim tends to be a little, even though it's a solid weave, it's a heavy fabric, the cotton fibers tend to have a little give to them, and that diagonal in both directions will really keep things in place and allow you to have a beautiful embroidery when you're finished. Okay? So that's it for level 1. Let's move on to level 2, because level 2 design has got some really cool techniques. So this is StitchArtist level 2. Let's get a new design page. Let's go to image. Let's bring in our palm trees. Let's hold down our shift key while we're sizing our image. That will size it from the inside out. In case you're wondering what I mean by that, from the center out, as opposed to just dragging a corner and having to size it that way. And then drag the other copy, size one side, and then having to size the other side. Now, in this design, we're going to talk about a whole lot more, because to start us off, we need to talk about design mapping. And whenever you map a design, you want to start from the back and work your way forward. So what's in the back of this design? This sun here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw with points. Start a little bit in the black. And draw with points the sun. Close our shape. I got rid of that point. I didn't like where it was at. I figured I could do a better job adjusting this Bezier handle. There we go. Perfection. Okay, now what we need to do is change the color, because the sun is yellow and orange. I'm going to click on this black square here and go and select orange. Orange yellow, I think, is a good, or true orange. And I'm going to fill that, only I am going to fill it with gradient fill. I want it decreasing. I want my density to be as loose as it can. This is one of those situations where I don't want any underlay underneath here. There we go. Now I'm going to right-click, copy this, right-click, paste this. I'm going to change it to yellow. And this fill, I'm going to make increasing. And I've already got my density adjusted. So that's going to be my sun. I am going to do one more thing. select my fill. I'm going to make my travel edge go all the way around the outside edge. Select my yellow. Make sure I have no underlay under my yellow. Make sure my traveled edge goes all the way around the outside edge. And there we go. Now I'm going to select both of these. And I'm going to hide my stitches. I have a show or hide stitches icon here because I need to see what goes on top of that, which is part of this black sand area and part of the palm trees. So I'm going to hide my stitches so I can see my palm trees and my sand. So the next thing from my sand or from my sun is my palm trees. So I'm going to show you two ways to do your palm trees. The first way, I'm going to select my draw with points. I'm going to start a little bit into my black area. And I'm just going to draw a soft curve. Right click when I'm done, and I'm going to apply a satin border to that. I'm going to come over here to my line nibs. I'm going to select line nib number 3 where it starts fatter and gets narrower. I'm going to take my stitch width and make it a 4.5. And right click when I'm done. And now let's show my stitches. Whoops, let's make this black. There we go. And see how that tapers automatically? That's because the adjustment that I used in the line nib. Now let's hide our stitches again. This one here, I'm going to use the draw a column with left and right alternating input. Basically a manual punch from my satin. If that rings any bells to those of you that might be old palette people, old software people. It was called manual punch, and you would do blocks of stitches like this. Well, it's just kind of the same way here. I'm going to start down here, a little bit into my black sand, make my first stitch. Right click when you're finished. Show our stitches. There we go. See? Now let's draw our black sand before we do our leaves. It would make sense to do our leaves next, but I want to be able to cover this area up so you really get the full effect of the sun. So I'm going to go over here with my draw with points, and we're going to trace this do the draw with points and trace one more item. Close my shape. Let's come over here on this one here. Let's make it a cusp so I can adjust this side and then adjust this side. And let's fill this with a fill stitch. Let's take off the gradient. Let's go back to our default density. Let's see what kind of underlay we have. Okay, I want contour and perpendicular. And there we go. Now let's do our leaves, and we're going to use a very unique tool that, to my information, is not in a whole lot of different softwares. And that is to draw a shape, a satin column, using two different shapes. So doing that, I'm going to click on that tool, and I'm going to need a drawing tool to go with that. So I'm going to draw with points, and I'm going to zoom in. On this leaf, we're going to start here. I'm going to go here and here, and I'm going to right click. And you see now my icon, my tool is back to draw with points. So I'm going to hold down my shift key so I can get some nice straight lines. Draw my zigzags. Okay, so now I've got my zigzags drawn. If you notice, my tool has changed again. Now it is the add inclination tool. So I'm going to add some inclination lines. I need at least 3. Right click, and there we have our leaf. Okay, we're going to draw one more. We're going to select our draw column making 2 sides, and our draw with points tool. Start in here, go out here, go down here, right click. My input or my tool is changed to the draw with points tool again. So hold down my shift key, click, click, click. So I get some nice sharp lines for my right click, closes my shape, and then changes my icon, my tool, to the add inclinations. I want one to be center, one to be okay, and I can edit this as well if I want to bring this down a little bit. There we go. Very cool way to handle these palm leaves. Very cool way. Now, I was trying to fix that so it had another notch in it, but I can't. It's okay. That's all right. It still looks pretty awesome. And it was pretty easy, too. So now let's go down to the blue. And we'll use our magic wand. We'll magic wand our blues. Fill them with satin column. Right click when you're done. Fill them with satin column. And remember where I told you where you have clusters of nodes? You might have problems. This is what I was talking about. See that cluster of nodes right here? Right here, I'm just going to make some of these go away. That way there's no chance of it causing a problem. There we go. How's that? Okay, remember what I said in level 1 about underlay? There's no underlay underneath this area here, but there should be at least a zigzag underlay underneath that, edge run and parallel, which is good. The edge run gives you a nice loft at the edges. Okay? So that is digitizing in level 2, and you see it's very simple artwork. Well, you see it's deceiving. At first glance, it looks like it could be a little bit complicated artwork, but I hope you see it with the right tools. It actually turned into being very simple artwork. Let's select all. And come up here and let's see, how can I do this? Okay, let's see if this works. There we go. See the side by side? I just imagine if we had done, and you could copy and paste these leaves as well. Copy, paste. Okay, so remember, I will be here for a little while after the presentation to take any questions. So if you have any questions about level 2, jot them down. And I will be here after the presentation to answer any questions you may have. Let's move on to level 3. There's some fun things to show you in level 3. That's where we're going to make the patch. So moving on to level 3. Here is our level 3 toolbar. See, it is chock full of goodies. Let's get a new design page. Let's bring in a vector art. Okay, this one looks like it's got a double line on it, so I'm just going to take care of that real quick. Yeah, it did. Okay. Okay. So here we have our butterfly design. Okay. So here we have our butterfly design. And we're going to do some new fun things with butterfly design that we haven't done before. I'm pretty excited about. And that is these guys up here, the generate stitches, the delay stitch generation, and generate now. Because my idea of this butterfly is to make this part black. But if I make that black, then it's going to make it hard to see all my other outlines to fill them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell it to generate stitches, delay stitch generation, and then I am going to fill my outline with fill stitch, and continue on with my design. Ideally, you should always select your objects from your object tree, but the way this butterfly is laid out, it's so much quicker and easier if I can select them from the butterfly, and I can work down this side and up this side. So first thing we're going to do is we need to change the colors of this because all the outlines are black and butterflies are colorful. So I'm going to click on my SVG color chip. I'm going to go to purple. And I'm going to select medium orchid and fill it. Select the next one. Go to palettes, go to current page, select medium orchid and fill it. Select medium orchid. And you see the areas that I have, color I have selected, I've done, have turned the medium orchid color that I have selected. So it makes it easy. I'll try to go through this as quickly as possible. It's very repetitious, but it's really cool when you see how the generate stitches now and the delay generation works for you. Whoops, and I see an area that I skipped. Okay, let's see. There we go. We've got all our purple done. Let's work on our turquoise part. We're going to do it the same way. I'm going to select a section, select my color chip. Let's go to threads again. Let's search blue. Let's go with medium turquoise. Okay. Palettes, current page, medium turquoise, fill. Keep in mind while I'm doing this, kind of in your mind, go through how you might do it differently. Maybe you would do a satin stitch. Okay. Nearing the end. Okay, now before I go on to the little dots here, which are going to be yellow, I'm going to do the ribbon in the center, which is going to be pink. So let's go to our threads. Let's search for a pink. And in case you're wondering why I'm using the Madeira thread chest, it's the one thread that I know is labeled by color, so I can search by color name. Okay, and this we're gonna do a satin column. And we're going to do the same thing with these other parts. We're going to do a satin column. Palettes, pink, okay, satin column, pink, satin column, and finally pink, satin column. Now that should be, oh no, one more section. I'm going to make this section turquoise. And I'm going to put a fill stitch in there. Okay, that should be all of our parts. Let's go up here then where we have our little circles. Let's make them yellow. Oh, let's change the threads. Let's make them yellow. Make them satin column. Is that all of our areas of our design? I believe so. Let's generate our stitches now. There we go, all but a couple of areas. Looks like I forgot a couple. There we go. That is how generate stitches now and delayed generation works, or delayed generation and generate stitches now. That's a really fun feature in level 3. And now what I would do with this, what we're going to do is select these areas and kind of just go through and adjust our inclinations. See, doing it that way gives you plenty of time to do some editing. If I wanted some more space between these sections, I could do that as well. I could adjust my start and stop points. Whoops, another area I forgot. Dag nabbit. Okay, so there we go. There's our butterfly. Let's look at this area here. Let's add some inclinations in there. Because your satin column will give you inclinations, but it may not necessarily give you the inclinations you want. That looks a lot smoother already. Okay, let's see. Now let's turn this into a patch using the marrowing stitch, and the pathing tools. You can take this design, I can take stitches on my design page and create an outline from that. So let's create an outline from stitches on the page, and it took just the black and it's giving me a nice outline. Now let's go to this guy here and inflate the object. So I'm going to inflate it all the way. I'm going to remove any holes that I may have. Click OK. Well, dang nabbit. There we go. Now I can apply the marrow stitch to that, and there we have a patch. Now, of course, what I would do this, right click, move first, go to my edge, do a fabric preview, and there we go. Now we really have a patch. Now, something I will tell you, when we talked about undersewing, underlay earlier, let's look at our black fill area. It's got contour and perpendicular. I'm going to change that to diagonal 1 and diagonal 2. Oh, come on. Let's turn off contour. There we go. Let's just give it diagonal 1 and diagonal 2, because then on all these areas up top, I don't need any underlay. And I probably, to prevent bleed through of the color beneath it, I'm probably going to want to do them a satin stitch. Because otherwise you're going to have your stitches melding in with your stitches. And it's not going to be a very pretty look. But, you know, it's your design. Picture this as your design and you're the creator. And how would you do it? I might do it a satin stitch. I might do it just as I did with all fill stitch because the fill stitch was so quick and easy. There we go. Now, last thing. Let's see, what would be some good text to put with this? The pink ribbon, let's put cure with that. Let's move it up here. Move it down here. And now I'm going to do satin column, butterfly for a cure. And now I've just added text by taking my True Type fonts. I just used Arial, Baltic. I have all these that I can choose from, but I just choose from the very first one that was there to keep it simple. And then from there, I assigned it satin column. Now, if I were doing this to stitch on something, I probably would look at this a little closer. And fix, well, it doesn't look like there's many areas that need to be fixed in here. So it looks like it, you know, but sometimes I might want to go in and delete sections and use some manual punch to fix the areas, things like that. I might want to take this area here and say, come in through here and kind of do some manual punch to get rid of that, the way it connects at the crossbar. So, and there's more than one way to skin a cat. Undo this a few times. There we go. Oh, now it's almost perfect. Yeah, I can live with this. This is a pretty fabulous. Let's change the color so you can see what it looks like a little bit better. See what that looks like? So there we go. I know I didn't do a whole lot in level 3. I didn't want to scare you with level 3 because there's so many tools, but I wanted to let you know with your SVG vector artwork how quickly and easily You can create a design, and then how quickly and easily with your pathing tools you can turn that design into a patch. You have the tools if you have level 3. And you have all these other tools here as well. These are all the, so you have the add inclination, you have the add a contour line, a cutting line, if you will. And you have all these pathing tools here that you can use. But I can tell you the most common ones you use will be create an outline from stitches on the page and inflate objects. So you can make patches, so you can make name key fobs, you can do all that fun stuff, and it's not hard. It's just fun. That's all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed it. I know I sure did. Whenever I get to share a little slice of what little I know with people like you, I'm happy. So I'm happy. I'd like to thank you for sticking around. And if you stick around a little further, I will be here to answer questions. Let's go over the promos real quick. 10% off of any Embrilliance product. 50 free embroidery designs with purchase. 10 free Embrilliance or BX fonts with purchase. And free shipping on stabilizers and adhesives. So those are some good promos, especially that free shipping one, guys. I mean, if you do nothing else but take advantage of that, you can always use stabilizer and spray adhesive. Alrighty. Well, I want to thank you, and I hope to see you in the chat with your questions. And have a pleasant rest of your day. Thank you so much.